All right, let's make some noise. Hello, chat. Welcome, Twitch. Welcome, YouTube. Welcome to the Innocent Lives Foundation monthly fireside chat. Although sometimes we do lunchtime lattes. It depends on the guest. But we're doing a fireside chat tonight, and I am, as always, your host Nick Kelly. Happy to be here. Thank you for joining the ILF stream. The Innocent Lives Foundation is a non-vigilante organization that identifies anonymous online child predators, develops and delivers specialized training for law enforcement, and provides educational resources for parents, teachers, and guardians. You can find out more at innocentlivesfoundation.org or just click on the little links that I just threw in chat. My guest tonight is no stranger to me. We've known each other a hot minute. But this is my good friend Kelly Kirk, of the founder of the Sofia Graham Foundation, which we're going to talk a lot about. And he's a public speaker and a business owner and an entrepreneur and an all-around good guy. And he's about to be an author. So, Kelly, can you hear me all right? Everything good?
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Good, man. You sound great. Welcome to your first fireside chat. I don't know if you've watched any of the
Yeah.
other ones. We've had everything from like polygraph specialists to Secret Service to like top 1% nonverbal communication people, and then we've had like the guys from the iRacing League because they they hook us up for just racing fake race cars around once a month or once a week and just wrecking them. So um, yeah, but like I said, you and I have known each other for a good long time, and because of the foundation, last time we talked was November show. Was that the last time I saw you? Does that sound right?
Yeah, probably. And we've known each other
Uh,
15 years, 2009, maybe 10.
well, okay, so when I met you, were still.
Powerhouse was opened in 2007 or 8.
Yeah, so
So,
that would have been then. It would have been 2008
yeah.
because Stace and I can hear her in the other room. She's on a different call. I really wanted her to come in here or jump in the Zoom. Maybe she will. We got time. Um,
Because I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but the reason I got to know you guys was because there's a celebrity picture up of you and Stacia at Mama Bento's.
which is gone. R.I.P. Bentos. Yeah,
What was that? Do you remember what it was for? What was it? What was the poster for?
it was
It was
something.
a poster of the two of you, and it was advertising something in the sushi place.
It was something around her business. So for the folks who are watching who don't know, so Dr. Kelly, my far superior half, who also volunteers with us here at Innocent Lives Foundation and does 100 million major things every 2 seconds, teaches herself. Like she just got a master's in space law. Space law, dude. I'm kidding you. I'm not even playing around. Um, yeah, we were. I'm sure she did some modeling shoot because around that time she was competing, right? Because
I don't.
because
I
because B was 4 when she wrecked her motorcycle, so that would have been right around that time. Would have been like well, maybe B was younger, so maybe 06, 07. But um, I'm
was it
sure
Taekwondo or something, maybe.
who knows? You know who else saw that? Our chiropractor. Our chiropractor ran into us in the restaurant, and we were getting ready to go out to something like downtown swanky something. He's like, well, "You guys are all done up. You look like the couple in the poster." And we're like, "Oh man, we're never gonna live this down." So, um, yeah, Mama Bento. So Bento Sushi, Woodbridge, Virginia institution. Uh, did she ever try to feed you? I know she definitely tried to feed a lot of people. Like,
So the only way you were allowed to eat sushi in her restaurant is if she approved and you ate it the way she wanted to eat, wanted you to eat it. So the first time I had been in there, I can remember I walked through and I ordered something and she put it down and she had, like a sushi roll, the ginger, the
yeah,
wasabi, and she comes over and she says, you had sushi before? And I said, yeah. Okay. Okay. And I forget who I was with, maybe Amy, a friend of ours, and Amy had never had sushi. So she comes over to her and she starts telling her what she can order, first of all. She wasn't allowed to order anything off the menu. There were certain sushi rolls,
right.
depending on your level of sushidom, that you were good for.
Depending your level of sushi, that's actually 100% accurate. Yes.
And she sits down and then she tells you what order. She says, and it's terrible, but she says, ginger, nature Pepto Bismol, you must eat. And I was like, I don't like the ginger. You have to eat. Nature, that's Pepto Bismol. You eat. Yes, ma'am, and you eat it. And I remember she held Amy's mouth,
Oh
picked it
no.
up with it, and she put it in, made her close it. You chew. Good. And literally force you to eat the sushi the way it was. Sushi was fantastic, and she was so nice.
Yeah.
But don't go in there and think you're doing your own thing. She had to sign off on whatever you were going to eat.
Yeah, that was uh and you had to even the wasabi, like the way that you got the wasabi you
Yeah.
had to do it a certain way. This has nothing to do with why we're chatting tonight, but this is what happens when Kelly and I get together. Is it's I think you're the second one of these I've ever done without having a script in front of me. Like, I like to over prepare. Like I'm a big like hot ones like Sean Evans, like his research department. That I love. Like what's the in eighth grade when you for Halloween played blah blah blah. Like what? Who knows that kind of stuff? So
and
that's
and
just
see, I'm the other way around. I've probably done 30 or so podcasts,
yeah.
and I'm yet to research or prep for a single one of them. I'm like, nope. I'd rather just show up and some of them have lasted a half hour,
Yeah.
and I've had one that was almost 4 hours. And
You'll you'll like there's
we just kept going.
a guy I used to work with who was in minor league equivalent of pro wrestling at the time, like the Virginia Championship Wrestling, if you remember
Mm-hmm.
VCW, when I used to ref and he wrestled, now has a podcast that is all it's Let's Find Out is the name of the podcast, and it's cryptids and it's ghosts and it's alien, it's just any unprovable thing. Like that's every week. It just has a different guest.
Oh,
And I was
that's
like,
so
you would
cool.
love that. Yeah.
So the kids and I, so I teach high school,
Yes.
and my kids and we end up down wormholes all the time. And the one that blew me away that they dropped on me in the beginning of the year, which I had never heard, and then I had to take me down the wormhole, is the kids now do not believe that Helen Keller is real. And I don't even remember how we ended up on this subject, but somehow one of the kids was like, "Oh, this is Kurt Helen. That's some bull. Helen Keller wasn't real." I'm like, "What do you mean Helen Keller wasn't real? She died in like 1968 or something. There's video and all of her." Yeah, but she didn't do all that stuff that they were talking about. I'm like,
What?
yes, she did. I said, let me log on. So I log on. First of all, you Google it, and there is a million sites now that pop up about Helen Keller not being real. So they started something. And we start going through all the stuff. There's no way she flew a plane, Mr. Kirk. And I'm like, flew a plane? And I
What?
log on. Sure enough, there's supposedly Helen Keller flew an airplane. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure she didn't take off and land. I'm pretty sure she was sitting in the cockpit and the pilot let go of it and she flew it for 5 seconds and they held on to it. Like, yes, there's a lot of propaganda and,
Yeah. Yeah.
build up around her. Well, how did she write 12 books? I don't know. That's a good question. So we watched the video of her and the lady that was her handler.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just went down this wormhole and it went through everything. And there's one guy specifically in my class, and he's a great student. And he just flat out will not believe anything. Even the videos, we watch the videos and the pictures. And he's like, she's not real. She's not real. So now it's literally turned into a joke in my class. Anything we talk about,
Yeah.
I will always link it back to Helen Keller. And I had the Virginia National Guard in my class last week.
Okay.
And this is an example of how it is. So the guy that was there he was a bomb dog handler.
Oh, okay.
And he was telling the kids about being a bomb dog handler in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I have them come in there so they can promote the National Guard, but also I teach nutrition and wellness. So we talk about the mental health of that and how he deals with all of that stuff. And then also the nutrition part. How do you carry food when you're out for 7 days? Do you take food for you or take food for the dog? Like, what do you do? So he's talking about stuff that he was doing. And the same kid, he asked me something about, well, is that like special forces? And he goes, well, no, it's not special forces. I mean, it's pretty dangerous. I'm 70 feet out in front of my battalion and it's just me and a dog walking down a dark road, searching for stuff and all. And the kid was like, oh, I said, hey, you know who was in special forces? Who?
No.
I said, Helen Keller. She was oh. And so literally now everything goes back to Helen Keller. And it's just become the biggest running joke, and I love it. He gets so mad at me.
We did a walking tour in October a couple years back in Massachusetts, and we did the same exact thing. It was like for some reason, the one guy, the tour guide, like his amazing stat was something about John Adams had invented something, and man, that was everything. You know who invented ghost tours? John Adams. It just
John
became
Adams.
it just became and I haven't worked there in a year, and there was something that was just on streaming or something like that, and out of nowhere I got a text message like, invented streaming. I'm like, oh, invented the Game Awards. I was like, oh my god. So yeah, those tend to stick with you. Let me steer us back on the rails here. You just brought up you brought up a million things. Like I immediately want to pivot to my buddy Steve Saylor, who's a blind gaming accessibility advocate, and like there's videos of him like at a gun range, there's videos of him driving a Challenger, but he's got cop cars on both sides. It's not like he's not driving down the highway, he's not going down
Right.
I-95, right? So
Right.
but
Right.
he's another
Right.
and he's just one of the funniest like natural storytellers you'll ever meet. So he's a
Oh my
dude.
God, I need to have him come into class and tell my kids he doesn't exist.
He Oh my god, so he's Canadian also. Why not? He's an albino Canadian blind gaming advocate. So there's your whole bingo card. So the first time we met him in person, um, it's like we met T and Pip, and Steve was in town visiting with them, and B and I and Stacia are already sitting out at the sushi place, different sushi place, and we're already sitting at the table, and they come in, and Steve is huge. He's just gigantic, and we're like B and I just looked at each other like, whoa. Like, did you know? Did you know? Like, it's one of those things. Like, we did it all with COVID. Like, as soon as you get done COVID, you finally meet everybody in person, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
you're 4 foot
yeah,
tall. Oh, you're 8 feet tall. And
yeah.
yeah, so that was yeah, he's a good guy. I'll make an introduction when he comes our way
That's
next. But
awesome.
but you just talked about National Guard, and you talked about the fact that you teach high school, you teach physical education. You obviously we're going to talk about more gym stuff. You
No,
teach
not physical education, nutrition and wellness.
nutrition and
Don't make
wellness.
me don't make me a PE teacher.
But don't you want your whistle and your short shorts? Come on, man. No.
No.
Um, but you tied it to you said mental health is part of that equation, and that
Mhm.
is the whole shebang. That's the whole reason for the foundation, right? So I was gonna start before we got to Hardee's and everything else that we were talking about before we went live. I was gonna start with Powerhouse because Powerhouse was not a sports club. It was not a fitness studio. It was not a come to class and sweat for 30 minutes and then go eat a bagel. It wasn't any of those things. It was a hardcore freaking gym, and I think that is foundational to how
Yeah,
you got to here and founded the foundation I have is Sofia, and you the 222 muscle, and
yeah,
so talk a little bit about how that. If I know, look, I know
yeah,
it came out of some total tragedy. I want to curse, but
yeah.
I'm not allowed to. It's a kid friendly stream.
Well,
Well, you can, but I can't. But you can. But
so
yeah,
yeah,
like how the
Powerhouse. I
foundation came to
mean,
be. Yeah.
Powerhouse had a lot to do with it. So my two best friends from the time I was a teenager and I decided we wanted to open up a gym in 2007. Ended up opening up Powerhouse Gym in Woodbridge. It was a hardcore gym. We had classes and we had everything, but our biggest thing there was when you walked into the gym, we wanted you to be hardcore. We wanted you to be an athlete. That's what we would say. And people would say, "Well, I'm not an athlete." I'm like, being an athlete doesn't mean you have to be able to bench 500 pounds or pole vault 20 feet. I said, that guy over there, see that guy over there? He's 82 years old. He was a World War II vet or something. I said, he came in here, and the only thing he wanted to be able to do when he joined this gym was be able to walk up and down the stairs.
Mm.
And I said, he's been in here every day, 7 days a week for the last 6 months, and he's gotten to where he can go up and down those stairs like it's nothing. He's an athlete. It's a mental thing. It's a mentality. Athlete is not, are you playing for the Redskins? That would be considered an athlete anyway. But are you something along those lines? It's a mental thing. That's kind of how we pushed it.
Yeah.
I got moms in here. We had a lady in there. I remember she had 7 kids, and she was pregnant for the 8th time. I'll never forget. She was all 7 kids would come into the daycare, and she was on the treadmill, 9 months pregnant, and she stops and she goes, "Oh my God, my water just broke."
No.
What? And she had told us, she's like, "I'm going to be in here working out until I have the baby." She calls
Literally,
her
it's
husband, they leave, and like 3 days later, she was back in the gym and back on the treadmill again. And I'm like, "You're an athlete. I don't know what else to tell you. That's, it's." crazy. So
It's amazing.
that was kind of the, kind of the, I don't know, I guess the start of it there. And in 2009, for a bad turn, my nephew and niece, 11 and 12 years old, were murdered by their stepdad. And it was an international story. It was on the news, everywhere. Um, and up until that point in my life, I had pretty much always had anything that I wanted to do, I was able to accomplish from high school, college. If I wanted a job, I went and got the job. If I, whatever it was, I made good money. I just always had everything kind of fall in my direction. I never really dealt with any kind of a tragedy or anything bad. I've had grandparents pass away, but everybody does that. It's not that that's an easy thing, but it's part of life and it's expected
Right,
to.
right.
um, so we opened up this gym, and about 2 years into it, my nephew and niece, 11 and 12 years old, and they get shot. And it was pretty tough to deal with. To I mean, for as an understatement, it was tough to deal with. But from the powerhouse perspective, it was the first time that I saw all these people around the gym that came together and were just as part of it. Was family. Everybody was part of it. Everybody was supportive. There were 3,000 people at the kid's funeral, and they weren't 3,000 people that we knew. They were 3,000 people that were from this community. Um, the funeral procession was a couple hundred cars long from here to Fairfax. It was just absolutely ridiculous. But the outpouring of support that I got from all of these people was just amazing. And one of the things that it did for me that I didn't realize until fast forward 15 years later when we get to stuff, but I'll never forget the night that they were murdered. Um, I It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, I guess, when I left the hospital with my brother, and we had been down into the operating room and we had seen Brittany, and I won't go into all that, but it was what we saw and kind of what we dealt with will never, ever, ever leave my mind. And I left the gym, didn't really know what to do. I mean, left the hospital, came back to the gym. We were open 24 hours. And I went upstairs to my office and I was sitting in my office. I think I had actually contacted Pastor Vince already. Um, and, trying to find him and what do we do and where do we go? 6 a.m., a couple hours after all this happened, I was going to go home and I opened my office door and there was a member there and he stopped me. Obviously knows nothing about what happened. And he goes, "Hey, Kelly, how you doing?" I said, "Hey, how are you?" And he says, "Hey, I had a question. Trying to work on this part of my tricep right here. And is this a good exercise or should I?" And he asked me something about it. I don't remember, but I remember instead of me saying, "Hey, you know what? I'd love to talk to you about this. I just had a tragedy or something happened with my family or whatever." And instead of taking care of me, which would have been perfectly acceptable, I remember spending 5 minutes talking to this guy about the difference between tricep pushdowns and overhead tricep, something. I don't know what I was saying.
Yeah.
Have no idea what he thought about it. I was just kind of in automatic mode, and this is what you do. All right, man. I thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. And he left, and I walked away, and I was like, why did I do that? And not that there's anything wrong with that, but fast forward to where I am now, having dealt with different tragedies, and talk about that, I would handle that extremely different now. But that was like one of the first times in my life where I'd ever just gone through something and had somebody ask me, a question, and I didn't. I'm not going to say I didn't have I didn't have the words to be able to tell somebody, "Hey, this just happened. Let me deal with this. I'll help you,
Yeah.
in a little while
Yeah.
or something." So anyway, that was the kind of with Powerhouse, but it was the first time that I'd ever kind of seen the gym family or the workout community, sort of come together. We didn't have classes for probably a week and a half because the group X room was literally filled with flowers, hundreds and hundreds of flowers. And and bouquets and stuff that was going to go to the funeral that people are donating. And I think if you had told somebody, hey, the group exercise room is going to be closed for a week or 10 days, people would get mad. What do you mean we're not having Zumba?
Right, right.
And people didn't. They just supported it. They were. It was just amazing. So I had never seen that level of people reaching out and helping. And if you look at the world just in general from 2008 until now, mental health has come a long ways from where it was in 2008, 2009. That wasn't anything anybody really talked about. It was, especially as a guy, that was taboo. You
Yeah.
deal with it, you suck it up, and you move on. That's kind of what it was. So it's kind of interesting when I look back at that and kind of where it was and what I went through. But I did it quietly, for lack of a better word. I can remember coming in. I mean, I went to work every day. I did the stuff that I was supposed to do. I talked about it, but I didn't talk about it, in detail.
Yeah.
Um, but Powerhouse was definitely a big part of it. And then fast forward a few years later, and I have a falling out with my business partners. Like again, like I said, they were my best friends from the time we were 13 or 14. And I got up and walked out of the business and haven't said a word to them since. And that was 2013. So that was in a sense a death, of the type of a death. I mean, walking out literally 1 minute we're best friends, and the next minute I haven't talked to him in 15 years after that.
Yeah.
So, I kind of dealt with that. And then,
And it's a key at the time. It was such a like a key identifier. Like you know what I mean? Like it's
oh, yeah,
part of who you were, not just part of what you did.
it was absolutely who, and I don't think that up until that point, my job had ever been who I was. I've worked for the Redskins. I've sold medical devices in the hospitals. I sold yellow pages. I've always kind of been in sales. Um, but my job never really defined me. And I think then Powerhouse kind of did define me for a
Yeah.
while. That was
Yep.
how everybody in the area knew me. That's kind of who I was. So, um, it was a little different. And then walking away from that, they ended up losing the gym, and I came back a year later and took it over, by myself. And again, seeing that community of people rally around me in the gym, and how do we get it back up and open, and how do we get it running, and how do we fix it, and how do we do everything? I had just, never experienced anything like that. And even I was telling the story a few days ago when we opened the gym back up, and it was financially struggling, and there were times where I couldn't pay everybody. And I remember telling my staff of 43 people, hey, I'm not going to have paychecks on Friday. Um, Now they knew that I wasn't getting a paycheck. I think I was probably living at the gym at that point. So it wasn't like I was, zipping off to Vegas and spending all this money. They knew I was there 20 hours a day and doing what I could. But they believed in me, believed in the gym and what we were doing. And I was like, look, I know some of you have to be paid. You're a single mom and this is your main job. We're going to make sure you get paid. You're teaching one aerobics class and it's $42. Are you okay if we wait on it for a few weeks? You'll all get paid. It's just, it can't happen this Friday. And I said, none of you are expected to work here for free. So if you can't do this, I understand it 100%. And I don't blame anybody if you get up and walk out and don't come back. And out of 43 employees, we lost one. So I felt like that said a lot about, me and the leadership and kind of what we were doing and the vision and just kind of what people believed in. So yeah,
There was
Powerhouse
never,
was a
yeah,
big part of it.
there was never anything, there was never anything that was an exclusion at Powerhouse, right? So even like you could park next to somebody and you could have bumper stickers for the two guys running for office. They directly compete with you, and nobody brought that up at everything. Just once you got inside was just kind of like, what are you aiming for today? Like, what's your
Yeah,
what record are you trying to break, or what are you rehabbing? What move? Oh man, I hurt my back, or this, or I'm rehabbing this knee injury, or
yeah. And we used to tell people, I'm like, whatever you think you're good at, check that ego at the door,
oh yeah,
because there will be somebody else in here that's better. I don't care what it is. You might be the best in the world at whatever you think, at powerlifting or bodybuilding or cycling or swimming or whatever it is, but check your ego because you're going to get it handed to you at some point in here. Somebody's, and we're going to be okay to
Yeah.
talk trash and
Right.
make fun of
Right.
everybody, and
Right.
everybody did. And when you look at the people that we had at the gym, um, whether, I mean, we had handicapped people in there, we had, top athletes in there. I mean, everybody just, the atmosphere was awesome, and everybody just kind of worked together and was part of it. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, you got some people who like they were just in there to walk on a treadmill for a
Yeah.
while, and that was where they were. And then you had people, I know downstairs where we had the area where we practice our martial arts stuff, and then yeah, you would look down all of a sudden there's somebody who's doing the tornado kicks and everything that there's not a chance. And I was like, yeah, all right, so there's definitely people better in here, absolutely everything. But
Yeah.
you meet people where they are in their journey, and I think that that was one of my favorite things about going to Powerhouse over there's a lot of other places that
Yeah.
are there for your health, but then once you do things only one way and it just isn't, well, I don't know, it's just kind of like free to just have your own identity in there, which I thought
Yeah.
was something that's still kind of we all reminisce at the to this point. um so flash forward, because we have to talk about obviously the tragedy that started the foundation.
Yeah.
And I mean I know where I was, and I know where Stacia was. And uh are you okay to talk about? Are you
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. That's my favorite thing actually to talk about. It's which, I mean, everybody deals with grief, I think, a little bit differently, and it's been 4 years. And I am happiest and most at peace when I am able to talk about her and the foundation, and whether I'm on stage or talking to the kids about it. I'm an open book at school. The kids, I tell my story from beginning to end about the third week of school every year, and that's actually kind of how the foundation started. So yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. Fast forward to a couple years back into the gym, and the gym was struggling again. It was just opening it back up between the economy and the reputation it had from how it was run before. We had bad landlords, bad leases.
Yeah.
There's a million and one things that point to it not making it.
Like aging equipment, yeah.
Yeah, it was everything. There was $1.5 million loan through the SBA that was we were behind on and had to pay back. I mean, it was rough. So um, it got to a point where it wasn't going to make it, and I was living in the gym, just staying there at night. And when the gym closed, well, I guess back up a little bit before that, probably 6 or 8 months before the gym closed, um, I walked in from lunch one day, and one of our front desk guys goes, "Hey, there was a girl here to sign up a little while ago." And I was like, "Oh, good. Did you sell her a membership?" "No, she wanted to wait for you." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, she'll be back at like 3 o'clock." I said, "Okay." So about 3 o'clock, this little 4'11" tornado comes walking in the front door, comes over to me and goes, "Hi, I'm Sophia." And I said, "Hi, I'm Kelly." She goes, "Oh, I know. I wanted to find out about a membership here." And I said, "Oh, okay." She's cute. I said, "All right." I kind of looked over at the front desk and I was like, "I got this." So I started walking her around the gym, and I am showing her equipment. And I was like, "All right, now this is how you do leg press." And I sit down and show her this, and she's acting dumb and going, "Oh, wow, and what does that work?" And I am throwing down my Mac Daddy vibe, and she's just playing dumb the whole way around. Well, fast forward, she joins the gym. Come to find out, she's not new to a gym. She's been working out for a while. Her and um, I can't tell you that story. Her and I start dating,
Okay.
and her and I start dating, and
I didn't know the day one story. This is all new to me. Like I love this. I
yeah,
had like
yeah,
when I talk about like what like filling out the application to go work for my future mother-in-law, and Stacia coming in and walking like I felt my head just like you just know, you know what I mean? You just like Yeah, I'm done. I'm cooked. Like you just,
So
yeah,
this is PG enough.
yeah.
So that's day one. Fast forward to week one. We're in there working out, and I'm flirting with her and talking to her. And I said, "Hey, I said, we should get together and do something this weekend. I would love that." And I was shocked. I was like, "Oh, okay." Found out she was, a little younger than me by about 2 decades. And after she says yes, I start stressing over this. So there were two girls that used to come in, and they would come in and work out every day, and they would talk smack with all of us. And they were a couple, and they are over on the elliptical together. And I see them come in, and this is like Thursday before the date with Sofia.
Okay.
And I go over to them, and they're like, "Hey, Kelly, how you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing good." I said, "Hey, I got a date this weekend." They're like, "You do?" And I was like, "Yeah." They said, "With who?" I said, "That little young girl, Sofia, that's been coming in here for the last week." And they were like, "Oh, she's cute. We really like her. That's awesome. What are you going to do?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't really know what to do with some cute young girl that's 20 some years younger than me." And the one girl looks at her partner and goes, "I know what to do with a cute young girl 20 years younger than me." I said, "You guys are no help." Why? Really?
Right.
So
Yeah.
they helped me plan a date. So we decided we were going to go to DC.
But
But talking about the gym being with everybody,
that
that's how it was.
that's a vibe that explains the vibe right
Yeah.
there. Was like 100% the I know what to like
Yep.
just immediately just like just busted chops.
Yep.
But that's you better know that's how that was
Yeah.
the
And
language.
you
The
just,
official language was just like yeah,
and
sarcasm.
that was it.
Yeah.
So she and I ended up dating. And come to find out that her coming into the gym that day and acting all dumb, yeah, that was an act. She had actually seen me at a bodybuilding show at Garfield
Okay.
a couple months before this. This was in April or May when we met, and she had seen me at the November
November.
show
Yep.
at Garfield High School,
Yep.
and she had come in and was into bodybuilding when she was in college, had done a couple little shows, and saw me and decided she wanted to meet me and get into the industry a little bit more, and blah blah blah. So she was working me that day far more than I was working her, and I didn't know that. But I thought for sure it was me and my Mac Daddy vibe and me
Uh-huh.
showing it. Nah, I had nothing to do with it. She
Uh-huh.
was working it.
Yeah.
She was working it the whole time. So um, fast forward, I don't know, 6 months down the road, the gym was struggling. And it got to the point where it wasn't going to make it. And the owners of Powerhouse Corporate, the Davish family, who have been around since 1968 or 69, when Joe Gold started Gold's Gym, they started Powerhouse Gym. So they have been around the industry and know more than anybody about the gym industry. And finally told me, he was like, "Kelly, let it go." He said, "You're not the first businessman to lose a gym. You're not going to be the last. Sometimes stuff is just out of your control." He's like, "It's too stressful. It's not worth it." And again, he said, "It's not worth it for your mental health." And this is the CEO of Powerhouse International. And I never forget that because I was stressed out is an understatement.
Yeah.
And he goes, "It's not worth it. Let it go." He said, "Walk away from it." He said, "If you want to move out to Detroit," he said, "you could be a general manager at any of my clubs out here. I'll hire you today." I was like, "No, if you said Miami or something, maybe, but I'm not going to Detroit where it's 5 degrees."
You're right.
Here we are.
Go
But he
today.
said, "If you want another gym," he said, "I'll help you get another gym in the future." He said, "This one's gone. Let it go." So I lost the gym. And when I lost the gym, that also meant that I lost a roof over my head. And people were upset about the gym closing. And I basically just lied to everybody. I told everybody that I was doing okay. My family would say, "Hey, where are you staying? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm staying with so and so from the gym. I'm staying here. I'm staying there." And I'd lie to them. And people from the gym would say, "Hey, where are you staying? Are you okay? Do you have a place to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm staying with my family." So I just lied to everybody. And I think the only one that knew was Sofia. And she was renting a room from a family in Woodbridge. And, she wasn't allowed to have anybody come visit. So I was living in my car, my smart car.
Yes.
Um, so thank goodness I'm little.
Yeah.
But I was in a smart car and I bounced around from rest stop to rest stop to Cracker Barrel because Cracker Barrel lets cars stay there overnight. Um, for I don't know, a couple months probably. I would get up in the morning and go into the bathroom and brush my teeth and shave and get online and get on my phone and get on Craigslist and look for like day jobs. What could I
Yeah.
do, to make $70? Hey, help me move a bed 3 floors, help me collect trash, whatever, mow my lawn. I mean, it was all kinds of crap like that. And that's what I did for a while. And the whole time I was going through that, Sophia just believed in me 100%. Baby, this is going to be okay. You're going to be good. What do you want to do? I don't know what I want to do. I've owned a gym for the last 8 years. I don't even have a resume at this point. And she just kept pushing me. You're going to be fine. You're going to do something. I know it. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. Just, I don't know how many times she told me that. And, I didn't believe in myself. So having her believe in me was pretty powerful, at that point. And I ended up getting a job substituting at Prince William High School, or I mean, in Prince William County, and that was $95 a day,
Yep.
and I could still look for another job.
Yep.
And I got a long-term sub job teaching ninth and 10th grade English. I loved it. And I was working also part-time at Subway. Not a good sandwich artist right here. Horrible.
I didn't know the subway part. That's a new. That's another. I'm learning.
Mm.
I'm learning all
First
kinds
of
of.
all, I don't look good in green. And you wear the little beanie, like the
Oh,
little golf, what do you call them?
the
Not the
visor.
hat,
The
but
visor.
yeah, the little visor.
Yeah.
And I was
That's not
going in
unless you're
there.
an accountant. That's just not a good look.
Nope,
Yeah.
wasn't good.
Yeah.
And the reason I was there is there was a previous member at Powerhouse, and he owned 14 subways or something around Washington area. Wanted me to be the general manager. He's hired me. Great job, pays well into the six figures. You're going to manage all these subways. I said, I don't know anything about it. And I'm kind of locked in to teaching until the end of the year. Like I promised, I've got my own classroom. I'm teaching these kids. And I said, is there any way I can finish this out? Because I feel bad, walking out of this, in the middle of this job. And he said, yeah, that's perfect. Actually, you can work part time at one of the local subways, and that'll kind of teach you the ins and outs of Subway,
So
which I
yeah.
know now.
Okay.
Awful. I'll never forget making my first sub. I literally made this sub for this 90-year-old blue-haired lady, as nice as could be, and I'm shoving the stuff in it. You know how they do it real good? They shove it in there,
Yep.
and they fold it over, and they
Yep.
make it all nice. Yeah, I folded it over, and onions are falling out, tomatoes are squishing out the side, and I'm getting stressed. And they don't mess around at Subway. You get 4 scoops of tuna, 2 tomatoes, like everything's counted
Oh,
out.
it's regimented.
And
Yeah.
oh yeah, and I'm putting it all in there, and I look up at the older lady, and she looks at me, and she goes, "Is this your first day?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, it's not coming out very well." And she goes, "It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll eat it anyway." And I was like, "Thank you." And I remember rolling up a hand. It was a train wreck. And I was like, I am not cut out for this. So fast forward about 2 months later, Sophia's still believing in me, and there were days where I would sneak over to the house that she was staying in, and I would climb in the window like I'm, you know, 14 years old, 15 years old, and sneak in and spend the night with her, and then sneak back out before anybody saw. And she just, believed in what I was doing. And during that time, a friend of mine that I had worked with at Gold's Gym back in the early 2000s. He owns Gold's Gym in Manassas. And we weren't working out because Powerhouse had closed.
Right.
And he sends me a message and he says, "Hey, I heard about the gym. I'm really sorry you lost it. Is there anything I could do?" And I said, "No, I'm okay." And he says, "Are you working out anywhere now?" And I said, "No, I don't have the money for a gym membership." I said, "It's stinks not being able to go work out." And he says, "Well, I'll tell you what." He said, "I will give you a membership free, you and Sophia both." He said, "But I'll give it to you on one condition." I said, "Yeah, what's that?" He said, "You use it." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, you have to use it. I want you to use the membership. I'm not giving it to you if you're not going to be there." And I was like, "Oh, we will be there."
Yeah.
So 4:30 the next morning, she and I got up and we drove to Manassas and started going back to the gym every day. I was 224 pounds at this point. I'm 5'5". That's not a good weight.
Yeah.
Um, I can't imagine what my blood pressure and everything else was, but I was definitely not healthy. And we started going to the gym. And fast forward 6 months, and my physical started getting better. And as my physical started getting better, I'll be darned, so did my mental. My mental started turning around too. And long about that time, the school year was finishing up, and I was hating Subway, but I knew that that was going to be my full-time job come June when school was out. And the nutrition teacher at Potomac High School had left or gotten a promotion, and the vice principal approached me, and she's like, "Do you want this job? Would you want to be the nutrition teacher?" Sure. I don't know. I never thought about teaching before. I never had a job like that.
Yeah.
What do I have to do? So you have to pass a couple tests and get your license. And I said, yeah. And I did all that literally in the first week. Was hired in July when school was out, and that was about the time when kind of everything was turning around, mentally for me, and it changed everything. And that was one of I guess the second time where the gym and working out, mentally kind of saved me. The first time was when I lost, Brittany and Connor, my nephew and niece. And then the second time here, going through the loss of the gym and, everything that I was dealing with. Um, so I started teaching, and Sofia started competing. She wanted to become an IFBB pro, and we did everything on a budget. We would travel and stay in the worst motel that we could, but that's okay because it was nationals and that's where she wanted to compete.
Yep.
And it was rough. I remember walking out of a motel one morning. We're literally on the way to her show in South Carolina, and the host hotel is this big, beautiful 5-star hotel. Yeah, that's not where we were. We were a few blocks down. And we walk out, it's 5 a.m., and we're going over to the hotel, and you know how crazy it is. You're stressing out, nervous.
Yeah.
We walk out, and laying right next to her car, there's a little white bag with a little white stuff powder in it. She's like, "What is this?" And she goes to pick it up. I go, "Whoa, whoa, 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 stop, 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 what are you doing?" Somebody dropped this. I go, "Yeah, leave it there.
Yeah.
What is it?" I go, "I don't know. Crack, coke, something that you have no business touching."
Right. Right.
Like you're
right.
either going to pick it up and somebody's going to shoot you because it's theirs and they want it,
Right.
or you're going to pick it up and we're going to get raided and arrested because they think it's yours.
Right.
Either way, it's not a good thing. Leave it lay there on the floor. So that was kind of where we were staying. And anyway, fast forward again a couple of years down the road, and she had won junior USA's both in the women's physique category and the figure competition. She won North American's figure, so she was just absolutely crushing it across the board. And she tells me, "I need to compete again." I said, I don't need to compete again. I said, "I haven't competed in 19 years at this point." I said, I don't think that's something I want to do. I don't need some crappy third place trophy. And she goes, "No, no, no. I think you could win and get your pro card, become a pro bodybuilder." I said, I don't think so. But you know what? I said, we'll ask." So we went to one of the posing events, and there was Gary Udit and Rod, two of the big wigs kind of there. And we waited until everything was done. And Sophia asked them, she goes, "Hey, why don't you guys take a look at him? I think he needs to compete and do Masters Nationals." And I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So I stripped down, let them look at me in a couple shots.
Yeah.
And both of them go, "We're 8 weeks out from Masters Nationals." And I said, yeah, you need to get ready for it. You could do it.
Wow.
I said, I don't want to just do it. I don't need to do it just for a third place trophy. No, no, no. You'll be in the top. You'll be competing. I said, okay. So 8 weeks later, we flew to Orlando. I did Masters Nationals, was on stage for the first time in 19 years, and I took second. And I walked off, and she was kind of laughing, "Hold yourself."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Second's not what I wanted, but you were obviously right. This is something that I can do again. So we went to the beach, had a blast. Everything was going good. I was out of prep. She was out of prep. We were eating everything in the, under the sun. COVID was going on. Um, and she hadn't seen her mom in almost a year and had plans to go see her. This was the end of third week in July. Had plans to go see her in August.
Yep.
And her mom messaged her out of the blue on a Monday and says, "Hey, I'm coming in to see you." And she's like, "Mom, I'm coming to see you in a couple weeks." She's like, "Yeah, I've got some time and I just want to come see you." So her mom flies in. She said, "I'm going to get a hotel. You can come stay with me and we can go shopping and do whatever. Don't take off work. We'll just hang out when you're off." So that Wednesday, we left the gym and gave her a hug and a kiss. I said, "I'll see you Saturday at the Max Muscle Show." And she left and went to stay with her mom. And that was Wednesday night. And then Thursday, I didn't see her. She worked and went and saw her mom. Friday, the same thing. And Friday night, we're talking back and forth. I had been to dinner with everybody for Max Muscle, and I was talking to Rod and to Gary again, and both of them had said, we were talking about my showing at Masters Nationals, and they said, "I don't think you can just win your class. I think you can win the overall." And I was excited about that. So I get back to the house here and I'm texting back and forth with Sofia. We send a couple of video messages or FaceTime chats. And I text her back and I told her what the judges said, "Hey, they think I can win this whole thing." And it was about 10:30 that night. She texted me back and she says, "Baby, I love you. I believe in you. Now go out there and win the whole effing thing." And I sent her a heart back or said, "I love you too," or something. And I went to bed. And 12:30 that night, I got a call from her mom that she had passed away. So um, that was the last text message that I had from her. And I immediately, I didn't know what to do. Um, I got up that morning about 6 o'clock and I went to the gym because I didn't know what else to do. And I remember sitting in the locker room. I had my hoodie up and I got tears running down my face. And I'm going, what do I do? I don't know what to do. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I did the only thing I know how to do that I could control. I went back into prep. I'd been out of prep for 10 days. We just gotten back from Orlando a week or so before that. And I went back into prep. And for anybody that doesn't know, that's a mental and physical thing. Back on a diet, back to counting calories, back to doing cardio, back to focusing on every last thing that you eat, that you drink, supplements, workouts, everything. And for me, that was something that I was able to control. I couldn't control everything else that was going on in my world, but I could control what I ate and my workouts.
Right.
And that was in July. Long about November, I was at lunch with a good friend of mine that I'd worked with at Gold's years before, from North Carolina. And he and I were sitting, and I was like, I want to do something for Sofia in her honor. I want to start a business or something. And he's like, "Well, how about a t-shirt company or a supplement company?" Nah, that's kind of dumb and played out. I don't know. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. I want something meaningful. And he goes, "Well, what did Sofia do for you?" And I said, "She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." And he goes, "Well, there you go. There's your business." What the F does that mean? I mean, that's my business.
That's your business plan. Yes. Believe
And
in
he goes,
yourself.
that's your business. You believe in other people when they don't believe in themselves." I'm like, "Dude, I'm totally not tracking with you. What am I selling them? What business is this?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "You start a foundation." And we kind of went round and round on how and what. And that's where we came up with 222 Muscle, the Sophia Graham Foundation. And the original idea was to do what she did for me and what my friend at Golds had done, is to provide free gym memberships for anybody going through a trauma or tragedy where that gym membership might save their life. Because I truly believe it saved mine, by getting back in there and, like I said, fixing my physical changed my mental. And that was the idea. And I didn't really know where it was going to go or what it was going to entail or how to get there. But I started it as a 501c3, and we started raising money and started giving away gym memberships, and I've given them to, people that have gone through divorce, drug addiction, um, surgery, cancer. Most of the time, the gym owners are pretty decent and will comp a gym membership. I think the only people that didn't was the YMCA in Temecula, California, that wouldn't comp a membership. And I think we paid 12 or 1300 bucks for a lady that had gone through cancer and wanted a YMCA to be able to swim in and stuff. Um, but we started raising money for that. And um, a few months after that, I was telling my story at school, and my story literally from like a little kid, the gym, losing Sofia, all of this. And you could hear a pin drop in my classroom when I talked, and that's unusual for a bunch of 15, 16, 17-year olds to be that quiet.
Right.
And I had a kid come up to me at the end of class, and he was a pretty tough kid. And he waited until everybody left. And he said, Mr. Kirk, I just wanted to thank you for telling that story. And I said, yeah, I said, I don't tell the story, for you guys to feel sorry for me or anything. I said, I just want you guys to know that I've been through some crap. So if I'm giving you guys advice or talking about stuff, I sometimes I understand where you're coming from. And he said, well, I don't know if you know, but I'm in a gang. And I said, no, but okay, that's a world that I didn't come from growing up,
Right.
And he says, my dad was a big gangbanger too, and he was murdered about a month ago.
Mm.
And I said, oh man, I'm sorry, what happened? And he said, well, it was something happened with a rival gang, and he was at a gas station in DC, and they pulled up and did a drive-by and murdered my dad. And he said, everybody in my gang keeps telling me right now that I need to get over it, and I'm just having a hard time getting over it. And I said, dude, you don't let anybody. I can't tell you what to do about the gang. That's your decision. But anybody that's telling you that you should get over it is wrong and doesn't understand what you're going through. I said, you don't have to get over it. I said, you deal with it on your time, your terms. And we talked a little bit, and I said, look, I said, here's the deal. I said, anytime you're here at this school, I said, and it comes over you and you start getting upset or need a minute. I said, I don't care whose class you're in. I said, you get up, be respectful, and tell that teacher you're going to Mr. Kirk's room. And I said, you can come here anytime. I said, just knock on the door. You don't have to say a word to me. You can just give me a thumbs up. I said, put your hoodie on, your headphones. You can go sit at my desk or in the back, put your head down, whatever you need to do. I said, I will deal with the consequences. I will handle that,
Yeah.
with everybody else. And, that was the first time that it kind of dawned on me that my story clicked, and it meant something. And then I started putting different stuff online, and people would message me and say, oh, I remember Sofia at this show, and she was so helpful, and I think about her all the time, and I think about everything you guys have been through, and it's just motivating to me, and blah, blah, blah. And I started realizing, I've kind of got a story here. So I had talked about when her and I were together, getting certified through John Maxwell. So John Maxwell leadership, and they certify you to become a leader. And they work with people that wanted pastors that want to speak to their church, CEOs that want to be able to talk to their companies or the employees better. They also work with people that want to actually go out and teach leadership and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I went through the program. Usually it takes people 8 months, 9 months, a year, 2, 3 years. I went through it in about 12 weeks. I just buckled down and busted my butt and went through the program, graduated through there. Again, back down in Orlando, which was bittersweet going back to Orlando.
Yeah.
Kind of where I, had been competing, and added that into the foundation, and started to kind of put a story together there. And then fast forward a little further, I'm still competing. The next 3 years go by. I end up taking second place. I took third place. I came back 2 years ago and I won Masters Nationals in Pittsburgh but I didn't win the overall. So I won my class, but I didn't win the overall, so I don't become a pro. Fast forward to this year, I'm still basically mentally in prep, and I go back to Pittsburgh, and um, I win again. I'm sorry, I went to New Jersey, and I win again at Team Universe. So I win nationals last year. I win Team Universe this year, and I won the overall, and I was able to get my pro card. And where it all kind of comes full circle is I was in my hotel that night, and it's been 4 years of me being in prep, and I've got this foundation, and I'm trying to grow it, but I've been focusing on bodybuilding because that was my promise to her. That was her last text message. Go out there and win the whole effing thing. And for 4 years, that's what I've had to do. And I get back to my hotel in New Jersey, and I'm by myself. And I woke up about 3 o'clock that morning, and I fell apart.
Yeah.
And, what I thought was going to be the greatest day ever. I'm 56 years old. I just became a professional athlete. I'm standing on stage. Everybody's cheering. This is what I've been working so hard for. I know she's proud. And I fell apart. And I literally had to grieve all over again. And I remember the same thing going through my head that went through my head that morning when I lost her. I sat there in the gym that morning, and I'm going, what do I do? Now I'm sitting in the hotel room, and I'm going, what do I do? I just won my pro card now. Now what do I do? What do I do? Like that box had been checked.
Yeah.
What do I do? And it was more a mental thing than a physical thing. I'm busy and I have stuff to do, but it kind of changed everything. And I took a week and I turned my phone off and I went radio silence, and I went and sat on the beach for about 5 days and just kind of bawled my eyes out and got my thoughts together. And I came home and I started putting my thoughts on paper. And next thing I know, one page turned into two, and 2 pages turned into 20, and 20 turned into 60. And all of a sudden, I was like, I think I could write a book. And I started putting more and more together, and it started coming together. And as I was going through that, I talked to a guy about a year before this who runs a company, YSU, Youth Speaker University.
Okay.
And they hire people to go around to different schools and to talk on different subjects. And I had spoken with him about a year earlier, and just wasn't the timing wasn't right. And I called him back and I said, hey, we talked a year ago, and I said, I've kind of been telling my story, and I think that the time is right now. So for the 5 months, 6 months, I ended up writing a book.
Yep.
And writing a 38-minute keynote to be able to give to high schools, and both will kick off in February. So February 22nd, 222, the book will get released, and about 4 days later, I'm speaking to 2,500 students and doing my keynote for the first time, and then we'll hopefully be out and travel around the country and be able to go to different schools, and kind of it's the speech is not so much it's telling a little bit of my story, but it's combining failing forward. How do you lose? How do you lose and fall forward instead of backwards? How do you deal with grief? How do you deal with setbacks? These kids now, it's a different world than what I grew up in. Like I said, I didn't have setbacks. If I did, it was whatever, not making the team or something.
Right.
The cute girl didn't go out with me.
Right. That's
A lot
just
of these
man up.
kids,
Like man up is all you got. That was all we got. That was
yeah,
our get over it, man up, be tough.
and these kids are dealing with a lot bigger stuff than what you and I ever thought we would, deal with. And I look at these kids and I'm like, you guys have been through more crap at 16 or 17 than I had up until 40.
Yeah.
So the keynote is a lot about that. How do you deal with stuff and still, move forward? So it's positive, it's kind of funny, it's kind of quick. And then the book is just, it's a memoir. It talks about everything from my third grade math teacher, that is the reason why I can't stand math.
Oh no.
Miss Costas. It talks about that, to losing the gym in Sofia, to talks a lot about stuff that Sofia and I did and silly stories that we had. My family growing up. I mean, it's a little bit of everything, but at the end of every chapter, I have a I tie it into John Maxwell's
Yes.
16 laws of growth.
I've, I've,
So it
I've,
talks about the laws of
I've read
growth and
so
how
much
it
John
fits in with that.
Maxwell. Yeah, I totally understand
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
So
exactly.
every single chapter talks about one or two of his laws and how it ties into that. And then it has sort of an epilogue on every single chapter about how do you deal with this? Are you like I said, Miss Costas was my third grade teacher, and I literally say, who is your Miss Costas? You
Right.
know, who do you
Yeah.
who is she was who is somebody that something happened to you when you were a little kid that's affected you for the rest of your life that you never would have thought of. So I kind of wrap it up. So it's a memoir, but it's also a self-help motivational kind of book, I hope. Um, there's some sad parts and there's some funny parts. So, it's not something that's going to make me rich, but I hope it's something that kind of hits home for some people and people can relate and will help me get in front of more people
Yeah.
and kind of tell my story and help more people that have kind of gone through everything.
I,
Um,
so it's Broken Still Built is the name. It's available for pre-order. You can get it. I've already pre-ordered it, but gone.
yep.
Um, and and I know 222 was Sophia's number, and I love that February 22nd is when it all comes together because you know me, big stupid hockey nerd that I am. February 22nd is the anniversary of the Miracle on Ice. And
Really?
and she was your miracle. I mean, if you think about everything that you've just talked about in the last hour that we've been here,
That is cool. I
isn't that
did not
cool?
know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, the whole Lake Placid February 22nd absolutely is the anniversary. So
And I can almost tie it in because Sophia was adopted at 1 year old. She was from the country of Georgia.
yeah,
And when her mom adopted her, they're in a huge Georgia is in a huge civil war, and that country has been war torn for decades. And her mom stayed in Moscow for almost, I don't know, 8 or 9 months, going back and forth to Georgia and to the orphanage and doing all the paperwork and all that kind of stuff. So a little bit different, but there's your Russian tie-in
yeah, there it is. I
for
mean,
what
we've
it
gone
is.
full
That's kind of
circle.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I
Well,
did not know that.
yeah. There you go. Well, we went long, which shocker that I knew that was going to happen as soon as you and I sat down and immediately didn't get on topic, which is how our brains work. Um, yes, Broken Still Built, 222muscle.com is the site. I've been putting the
Yep.
testimonials and everything while we've been talking. I've been listening and learning.
SophiaGrahamFoundation.org
Yep.
is the website where you can help out or book me or anything there. And I got to update that and get the book and all that kind of stuff on there. And then yeah, the book is the Kindle is up for pre-order
Yep.
on Amazon so far.
And
So
Sophia Sofia, just for those who may
SOFIA.
just be listening audio only for if they're playing
Yep.
this back. But all right. So last question, other than buying the book, like and going to the website, where else can people follow you and what you're doing? I know you're very prolific on the socials. May
Yeah.
have a little bit different tone than what kind of this, but
The foundation has, obviously the website, SophiaGrahamFoundation.org, but also on Instagram is Sophia Graham Foundation and Facebook, Sophia Graham Foundation, and then my own personal ones, which are open, and I probably post more stuff that ties to it.
yeah,
Um, so just literally under my name on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever else the kids are these days.
yeah, they're not on MySpace. Uh,
I'm still friends with what was his name?
Tom from
Tom.
MySpace.
Tom and I are still friends. I
We still
think. Yeah.
boys? Yeah, we still hang
Yeah, we're
out.
still boys.
Still boys. Well, thank you, man. I know that's a lot. I know you're you have no fear telling your story, and it's heavy. But what we do, both foundations, it's heavy, but it's very necessary. The mission has to continue, and I love you for everything that you're doing, and look
it's
forward to.
it's just it's a different world with what you guys are doing with the foundation. I mean, that's not something that, like I said, I ever thought about 20 years ago.
Right.
And this is not something grief. It's just it's very different. Somebody had asked me, why when I started the foundation, kind of to tie it into what you guys do. Why are you putting her name in it? Why is it Sophia Graham Foundation? Why not just 222 Muscle? People don't know who Sophia Graham is. I mean, her friends do, and some of the people in the bodybuilding world do.
Right.
And I said, well, they don't now, but they will. I said, my whole point is to have a legacy of Sophia, who she was, and what she meant and how she helped me. And I said, I literally, the first thing I could think of is Adam Walsh. That was 1987,
Early.
1988. The
Yeah.
Adam Walsh Foundation is still
Yep.
there and
Yeah.
still, kind of doing the same thing. So, it's just that's kind of where the tie-in is. Mental health is just a completely. I'm a train wreck, and I'm okay with that. I tell my kids at school, and I tell everybody, I'm happy if you talk to me as a kid. So you would never know, but there's a point at some point every single day where I break down into tears, and it is what it is. I'm okay with it. This is what it is, and I don't think it ever goes away. You just figure out how to kind of, fail forward with it, move forward with it. So
Yeah.
I'm broken and still built. So there
My
you
man.
go.
My man. All right. Thank you, Kelly. Look,
Yeah, thank you.
I won't wait till April to reply to you on Instagram from now on. I promise. But yeah, everybody can find out more at 222muscle.com, the Sofia Graham Foundation.org, and follow Kelly Kirk on all the socials. And we will be back some point next week. Not Fireside Chat. We'll be back to doing some other streams. But thank you everybody for being here. Thank you again, Kelly. Appreciate you
Yeah.
as always. And we will see everyone later. Thanks for joining the Innocent Lives Foundation stream. The Innocent Lives Foundation is a non-vigilante organization that identifies anonymous child predators online, develops and delivers specialized training for law enforcement, and provides educational resources for parents, teachers, and guardians. You can find out more about what we do at innocentlivesfoundation.org. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight.